Good day everyone. Today we will continue our talk about control flow comments, and we will see for and combination of for and if. We will write several functions in order to get familiar with the concept of function and these control flow comments. Now in order to do that, let's open our MATLAB, and as we want to write an M file, let's also make a new script. Now if you remember, on the previous sessions we talked about functions such as rand function, which was helping us in order to generate a random function. Now what we want to do, we want to generate a matrix or a vector of 1 by 7 filled with random numbers which are between -4 and 7. If you look at the help of a rand function, it tells you that if you want to have random number which is between a and b, then we have to use a syntax which is shown in here. Now here our a is -4 and our b is 7 and our r is a plus b minus a multiply by rand of, I want to have a row vector which is 1 and 7. Now if I run this one, I will get, let's save it, and let's save it as a test 3. Already we have test 1 and test 2, we have defined them before in our previous examples. I am now running it, and when I look at the r is a row vector which has some values, and the values are between -4 and 7. Now the question is, I want to find the average of the positive numbers. So what I have to do, I have to go within this vector and I have to look. If it is positive, I will keep it, and if the next one is positive, I will add it on top of the next one. If the next one is negative, I just pass it to another values. So what I need to do is this. Now I have to use a command called for, which starts from the beginning till end of the vector, which the size is 7. So the general format for for is for my index, whatever your counter of the index is, starting from a starting point till ending point. So I start from index 1 and I finish by index 7 because I have 7 elements. Now one thing that we have to note is the step size is 1. In other words, if I is 1, the next one I is 2, the next one I is 3. Now if you want to jump by a step of 2 or by a step of 3, we can always specify it in this form, from 1 with a step of 2 to 7. This time it means that the indexes are 1, then 3, then 5, and then 7. Of course, in this example, we want to have it with a step of 1. Now, what I do, I check if the number is positive. If it is positive, I have to add it to a variable which is accumulate all the summations. So I define s to be 0, and I come here and I say that if ri, because each of these variables that we have here is r1, r2, or in other form, in general form, it is ri. So if ri is greater or equal than 0, then what we want to do, we want to have s to be s plus ri. At the beginning, s is 0. The first positive number that I have, 0 will be added to that one, which will be that number itself. So the first positive number will go into the s. The second positive number will be the previous positive number plus this new one, and it will go to s. So s will update itself. Another thing that we need to know is how many positive numbers do we have here? I mean, we know we have 7 numbers, but we don't know how many positive numbers we have. So we have to define, let's say, a counter, and the counter, we initialize it to 0, and it will be incremented each time if we find a positive number. So the first number is a positive number, so counter will become 1. It means that I have one positive number. Now, do I have to do anything else in the if? No. So I finish the if. Do I have to do anything else in the for? No. I want to go back to beginning of the for to go to the next iteration, so I put end. Now, S contains the summation of all positive numbers, and counter C and T shows the number of positive numbers, the quantity of the positive numbers, how many of them we have. Now, how can I find the average? In general, the average is this S divided by counter. But we have to be careful, because assume the matrix is all negative number. What will happen? The average is 0. So the counter is also 0. So we cannot divide by 0. So we have to be careful about that one. So we say if counter is not equal to 0, then average, AVE, let's call it, is S divided by counter, and I can display it by writing, you remember it from previous lecture, the average is, and I can have num to a string, to str of average. Else, if we have the counter to be 0, we can display there is no positive number. And we can also stop the program. We can define something which is called error, and we can say that division by 0. Now, when I'm running the program, we will see what is the syntax of error. Error will show that whatever you write here, and it will cut the program. It will give you an error. The program will be stopped. It will be cut at that stage. So let's run the program. I am running the program, and it tells us the average is 3.97918. Imagine that I have this command error. When I am running it, you see it says that division by 0, and it will stop. And if you have your speakers on, you will hear a ding sound. Now, having this error, of course, is optional, but if you are writing a bit more professional program, it is good to show it. So like you have a division by 0, or you have some undefined variable or undefined value inside it. Now, let's use the CLC and clear all at the beginning of our program, and let's run it again. And it says that the average is this. If you want, you can display the numbers and so on. Now, what we want to do, we want to make our example a bit more in advance. Here, what I generate a vector. Let's have a matrix of 5 by 8, which are between number, let's say, -6 and 9. And it will be fit with, let's say, integer random numbers. Now again, if you go to the help of rand, you will see that there is a command called rand-e. Rand-e or rand-i is, I can put it in here so you can see it's a rand-i command. And it says that in order to generate a random number which is integer with a uniform distribution, so it is generating a uniform distribution. Okay, now in order, as I mentioned, in order to put the values to be between interval of a and b, we will use a similar type of syntax as it is in here, but we have to use rand e function. The syntax for the rand e function is this: if you put x here and the size of m and n, it will create a matrix of m and n, and the random numbers are integers which are between 1 and x. Now here what I do, I will write a syntax like this. So the random number which is generated is between 1 and 100. Now I will multiply by b minus a, and then so I have the maximum number will be 100 multiplied by b minus a, and then I will divide it by 100, which tells me that the number will be between b minus a. And because when I'm doing the division, the result can be not integer, I am using a command called floor, which is run the values. Now, important thing is how I came out to this expression. Now, we know what is the b and we know what is the a. So when I am using it, I have to see that what is the b minus a. Like in here, it is 15. So I will choose this number to be much bigger than 15. Let's say 100, thousands. It really doesn't matter. Now, if I am using a syntax like this, let's see what will happen to my function. Let me generate, okay, b should be 9 and a should be minus 6. Let me run this part. I select it and right click. I am evaluating the selection, and let's see what is the value of r. And you see that value of r is a random matrix with the size of 5 by 7, and the values are between minus 6 and 9. Now the question is how I can find the average of the positive numbers within this matrix. So the concept is not changing in the sense that we need to have an accumulator, we need to have a counter, because the accumulator will accumulate all the positive numbers on top of each other, and the counter tells me how many positive numbers I have. Now, what is important and we have to note is how we can traverse within this matrix. In other words, I have to start from here and I have to go till the last value. Well, one way is this: I start from 1 and I go till last value. How many values I have? 5 multiplied by 7, it will be 35. So I can check and do the process, and it can tell me that what is the results of the average of the positive numbers. I can run it and it tells me that it is 3. Now, and I run it and it gives me it is 4.1. Now, another way is I know R, and I know that it has rows and columns. So what I can do is this: I can update this one in this form. For I starting from 1 till 5, because I have 5 rows. And then I write for j starting from 1 till 7. So what I want to do is that I say that go to row 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, column 6, column 7. Then go to row 2, column 1, column 2, column 3 till the end. And then when I am here, I will do if r of I and j this time is greater than 0, add r of I and j to s. And now I have to add one more end. One of the end is for the j, one of the end is for the 4 of I. So this is for the row and this is for the column. So I can do the same thing in here, and it tells me that what is the average of the positive numbers. So let's enhance this program a bit furthermore by saying that I want the user to enter the value of a and b. So between, we change the question, it will be between two given values. And then in order to have a, we use the input comment, and we say let's say please enter an integer. We do the same thing for b. Integer bigger than the first one. Let's have it in that form. And then we run the program. Enter, let's say, -3 and 5, and it tells me that the average is this. And if you want to look at the matrix, and here is the matrix. Now, you have to note, when we are using for, as I mentioned, we can go in this form from 1 to 5, and this step is 1 by default. What if I want to go from 5 to 1 and from 7 to 1? Now, because we know that the step size is 1 by default, I have to define the step size of -1. So what happens, I start from here and I go to the first one, which is okay, I enter, let's say, 2, and I enter, let's say, 25, and it says that the average is 13.4286. Now, the important thing here is that based on the questions, based on the problem that you have, you can change this step size. This is a way to find the average of the numbers. You can calculate the average of the negative numbers. You can consider it as a task to do. And then we can use this for and if even inside in function. Now, in the next lecture, what we want to do, we will talk about another way of making a loop, and we will talk about while, and we will see how we can use it, and then we will try to do even furthermore examples. I hope that you enjoyed today's lecture. I'll be seeing you in the next class.